and now another program in our fortnightly series in Repertory, in which personalities from the world of opera discuss and illustrate parts from their repertory. Today it's the baritone Eric Shilling, and he begins with Gilbert and Sullivan.
On the evening of January the 1st, 1962, in the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, Stratford-upon-Avon, my blood ran cold when I heard that overture over the relay system in my dressing room. The copyright on Gilbert and Sullivan's Savoy operas had run out on the previous midnight, the 31st of December, 1961. And here were we of the Sadler's Wells Opera Company daring to put on the first non-copyright performance of Iolanthe in a new production quite different from the traditional D'Oyly Carte presentation, and our first performance was being broadcast. I'd never done any Gilbert and Sullivan in my life, and I was to play the Lord Chancellor before an audience of hundreds in the theatre, and what was far more daunting, to thousands, maybe millions, of listeners, many of whom knew the opera far better than I did. We'd worked for some weeks with Frank Hauser, our producer, and his insight into the meanings and inflections of Gilbert's brilliant libretto were a revelation. One of our immediate problems on this first performance was timing. We were unprepared for where the laughs and reactions of the audience might come. But we were so keyed up with the eyes of all the Savoyards on us, so to speak, that in the event things went with a swing. The story concerns the Lord Chancellor's guardianship of pretty young wards in Chancery, one of whom is the shepherdess Phyllis. Unbeknown to the Lord Chancellor, on the day the opera takes place, she intends to marry Strephon, a shepherd who is half mortal and half fairy, his mother being the fairy Iolanthe. Iolanthe married a mortal, and was consequently banished by the fairy queen, but has this day been received back into the fold. When the fairy queen learns that Strephon has been refused leave to marry Phyllis by the Lord Chancellor, she resolves to use her influence to secure for Strephon a place in Parliament with unassailable powers. This is opposed, naturally, by the peers, who make a grand entrance with their clarion call, "Bow, bow, ye lower middle classes." On this occasion, the peers, in their full ceremonial panoply of vivid red robes trimmed with ermine and coronets, were preceded by the band of the Irish Guards in full-dress uniform, complete with bearskins, a feast of visual and oral splendor. The Lord Chancellor's refusal to allow Phyllis to marry is not disinterested. He is himself smitten by her, and the dilemma between guardianship and infatuation produces restless nights. On our first performance, I thought the Nightmare Song was more than aptly named. All those words, 575, I think, crammed into 3 minutes in the most celebrated of Gilbert's patter songs. I felt as though I was running down a tightrope.
Love, unrequited, robs me of my rest. Love, hopeless love, my ardent soul encumbers. Love, nightmare-like, lies heavy on my chest, and weaves itself into my midnight slumber. When you're lying awake with a dismal headache and repose is tabooed by anxiety, I conceive you may use any language you choose to indulge in without impropriety. For your brain is on fire, the bedclothes conspire of usual slumber to plunder you. First your counterpane goes and uncovers your toes, and your sheet slips demurely from under you. Then the blanketing tickles, you feel like mixed pickles, so terribly sharp is the flicking. And you're hot and you're cross and you tumble and toss till there's nothing twixt you and the ticking. Then the bedclothes all creep to the ground in a heap, and you pick them all up in a tangle. Next your pillow resigns and politely declines to remain at its usual angle. When you get some repose in the form of a doze with hot eyeballs and head ever aching, but your slumbering teams with such horrible dreams that you'd very much better be waking. For you dream you are crossing the channel and tossing about in a steamer from Harwich, which is something between a large bathing machine and a very small second-class carriage. And you're giving a treat, penny ice and cold meat, to a party of friends and relations. They're a ravenous horde, and they all came on board at Sloane Square and South Kensington stations. And bound on that journey you find your attorney, who started that morning from Devon. He's a bit undersized, and you don't feel surprised when he tells you he's only 11. Well, you're driving like mad with this singular lad by the ship's now a four-wheeler. And you're playing round games, and he calls you bad names when you tell him the ties pay the dealer. But this you can't stand, so you throw up your hands, and you find you're as cold as an icicle. In your shirt and your socks, the black silk with your crocs, crossing Salisbury Plain on a bicycle. And he and the crew are on bicycles too, which they somehow or other invested in. And he's telling the tars or the particulars of a company he's interested in. It's a scheme of devices to get at low prices all goods from craft mixture to cables, which tickles the sailors by treating retailers as though they were all vegetables. You get a good spaceman to plant the small tradesman, first take off his boots with a fruit tree, and his legs will take root and his fingers will shoot, and they'll blossom and bud like a fruit tree. From the greengrocer tree you get grapes and green pea, cauliflower, pineapple and cranberries, while the pastry coke plant cherry brandy will grant apple puffs on three corners and banberries. The shells are a penny and ever so many are taken by Rothschild and Baring, and just as a few are allotted to you, you awake with a shudder despairing. You're a regular wreck with a crick in your neck, and no wonder you snore, for your head's on the floor, and you've needles and pins from your throat to your shins, and your flesh is a creep, for your left leg is asleep, and you cramp in your toes, and a fly on your nose, and a flub in your lung, and a feverish tongue, and a thirster's intention, and general sense that you haven't been sleeping in clover. But the darkness has passed, and it's daylight at last, and the night has been long. Ditto, ditto, my song, and thank goodness they're both of them over.
The Lord Chancellor is persuaded by two noble lords to go ahead and marry Phyllis. Faint heart never won fair lady. But Iolanthe appears and reveals to him that she is his long-lost wife, and Strephon is their son. He is overcome with emotion and blesses the union of the young lovers. Iolanthe has defied fairy law by revealing her identity to the Lord Chancellor, but just as the Fairy Queen is about to pronounce sentence of death on her, the rest of the fairies confess that they themselves have all married peers. The Fairy Queen cannot very well execute them all. Instead, the mortals are changed into fairies, and away they all go to fairyland.
as we may, off and away, we'll commence our journey. Very happy are we, as you can see, everyone is now a fairy. Everyone is now a fairy. Up in the air, sky high, free from woods, enchantments arise. He will be surely heard your call, he's such a susceptible child. Up in the air, sky high, free from woods, enchantments arise. He will be surely heard your call, he's such a susceptible child.
Those excerpts from Gilbert and Sullivan's Iolanthe were taken from the 1962 Sadler's Wells recording. A direct contrast to the fantasy world of Gilbert and Sullivan is that of Janacek's opera, The Makropulos Case. Karol Čapek wrote a play about Elena Makropulos, a woman born in the 16th century whose father was court physician to the Habsburg Emperor Rudolf II in Prague. The emperor commands the physician to find the elixir of life, and when he succeeds, the emperor obliges the physician's daughter to act as guinea pig to see if it works. It does indeed, and the 16-year-old girl escapes from the court, taking the formula with her. For 250 years, she continues to live under various names, all of which have the initials E.M., and through the years she continually resorts to the formula to provide further doses of the potion to ensure her survival. At the beginning of the 19th century, she is known as Elian MacGregor, and a passionate love affair produces a son who takes his mother's maiden name. The father, Baron Pepi Prus, is left in charge of the elixir formula when she moves on. When the opera opens, it is early in the 20th century, and a descendant of the son by name Albert Gregor is engaged in a lawsuit with Jaroslav Prus, a descendant of Baron Pepi Prus, over the inheritance of the Prus estates. In the 1960s, Norman Tucker translated this work into English, and it was presented at Sadler's Wells. I took the part of the lawyer Dr. Colinati, a legal buff in a somewhat different league from Gilbert's Lord Chancellor. The lawsuit has to be explained by Colinati over a somewhat independent orchestral accompaniment with ever-changing time signatures and constant syncopation, which always seems to leave out the first beat in the bar. Hair-raising as it seemed at first, it was a fascinating character to tackle. The heroine, by now known as Emilia Marti, is a grand opera singer, grand in every sense of the word, and Maury Collier stepped into this role as if it was created for her. Emilia Marti now desperately needs to replenish the potion, and she has come to obtain the formula at whatever cost from the Prus estates. She eventually agrees to spend the night with Jaroslav Prus in return for the paper. She is now 342 years old, and not surprisingly, Prus finds her cold as ice. But he keeps his part of the bargain and hands over the formula. In her hotel bedroom at dawn the next day, she is confronted by Colinati and his clerk, Albert Gregor, and Prus, who demand explanations of her apparent extraordinary knowledge of the whereabouts of the formula in old Baron Pepi's effects, and of an apparent forgery by her in the name of Elian MacGregor. She leaves the room, and they rifle her suitcases and find all sorts of letters signed Elian MacGregor, Elena Makropulos, Elsa Müller, and Eugenia Monte, all with the initials E.M. Emilia Marti returns drunk, and under Colinati's questioning recounts the whole story. She confesses she is 342 years old, that she had returned to Prague to retrieve the formula once again and renew her life by taking the potion. The excerpt I'm going to play takes us from this point to the end of the opera. Colinati's cross-examination reaches a climax, and she finally collapses. The men, hitherto sceptical, realize she is telling the truth. When she returns to consciousness, she appears like a ghost, having aged physically to her 342 years. Death has laid his hand on her. She no longer wishes to prolong her life. Living and dying are all the same. Happiness is belief in love, virtue, progress, and knowing the limitations of a normal lifespan. Janáček couches this last scene in wonderfully evocative music. The orchestra carries all the broad lyrical motives. The voices speak at natural speed. The orchestral instruments are sometimes at the highest and lowest extremes of their compass, and a chorus of ghostly voices echo her musings about mortality. But the supreme effect is the build-up of lyricism and emotion to the final death of Elena Makropulos, as her formula is burnt to ashes, and the curtain comes down.
Jak se jmenujete? Prokляття Nelže!
In that Prague National Opera recording of the Makropulos case, you heard Libuše Prilova as Emilia Mate, Przemysl Kochi as Jaroslav Prus, and Karol Berman as Dr. Kolinate. After that amazing piece, an opera without an orchestra might seem incredible. Yet Three's Company by Anthony Hopkins, which is my next choice, is a tour de force in its own way. I had the pleasure of working with Anthony Hopkins for some years, being whisked about by him the length and breadth of the British Isles in a succession of high-powered Jaguars, and revelling in his musicianship as well as his never-failing sense of humour. He wrote Three's Company for the Intimate Opera Company, in collaboration with another brilliant humorist, the late and much lamented Michael Flanders, who wrote the scintillating libretto. I had the privilege of creating the role of Mr. Three and also the original production. Three's Company is a chamber opera for 3 characters only, and with piano accompaniment, though what an accompaniment. Anthony Hopkins' virtuosity is here tellingly revealed. The 3 characters concerned in this particular triangle are Mr. Love, Mr. Three, and Miss Honey. At the beginning of the opera, Mr. Love is about to commit suicide. He appears with a revolver, a bottle of poison, a rope round his neck, and he is teetering on a high balcony. He recalls the events leading up to this moment. The company which belonged to his father has been left in the care of Mr. Three, until such time as the hopelessly inefficient Mr. Love can prove to Mr. Three that he is a businessman. The delectable Miss Honey has been engaged as secretary, and has apparently spurned him. In a series of flashbacks, he shows what happened. Here is the first.
Take a letter, misfit. What's that? Misfit is still away.
Misfit is tending her poor ailing mother.
She still isn't back.
5 sisters to support and a poor crippled brother.
Give her the sack. Find me another. Use your initiative. Don't answer me back. Send me one down from the typist pool in the office above. Oh, that reminds me, Mr. Love.
Don't go away. That's me. A month ago today. This is where I came in. Good morning, Mr. Three.
Morning, love. If you can give me a minute or two of your valuable time, and as you're aware from your father's will that I'm only running this firm of ours to the best of my limited powers on your behalf, until you have shown that you can behave like a businessman, if you would care to remain, if it's not overtaxing your brain, you might learn how a businessman, Mr. Love, engages staff.
I am willing to learn, Mr. Three. I try so hard to learn, but I'm aware from my father's will.
Embodied in my home,
and no one penny shall I earn, until that happy moment when I approve my business acumen. When you say I'm a businessman,
I can claim an enormous share of the profits we make.
80%.
But when will that be, Mr. Three? But when?
Later. Much later. Who? Miss Who? Miss Honey. Send in Miss Honey. Come in. Shut the door. Mr. Love, get off the floor. Come in. Take a chair. No, she gets one over there. Mr. Love, must you stare? You'd better take note. Name?
Miss Honey.
Miss Honey.
What are your qualifications?
These are my
Typing 60.
Bravo.
How do we know that she kept on the speed? Answer me that. A practical test is what we really need. A practical test. Take a letter, Miss Honey. To Baddington, Fuchs, 2 small F's, and dear sirs, we thank you for your letter of the 22nd inch telegram for the interest of circular events. We beg no objection to decent service, assuring you all orders will be faithfully dispatched. I have your statement that we cannot handle freight or guarantee delivery on any given day. With regard to the necessity of a ministry commission, we are happy to inform you for the Baddington Commission. We will undertake the matter. If required further action, may we wait for your instructions to our mutual satisfaction. Dear sirs, I have the honor to be yours very faithfully, W. Type that, Miss Honey. Now read it back.
To Baddington, Fuchs, and dear sirs, we send for a letter of the 22nd inch on the prince and interest of the relatives. We pay no attention to the little narrative. You will know all the things that he said.
I think you must agree.
Dear sir, I have the honor to be yours very faithfully, W.
Very well, Mr. Love. I take it we both agreed to offer you this position. The post is yours, Miss Honey. You start today.
Hooray! 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 I mean, thanks. Hooray!
Thank you. You are very kind.
With Mr. Love's permission, let the work of the day proceed.
Work duly proceeds, with Mr. 3 being highly efficient and coping with everything, virtually effacing Mr. Love. But Mr. 3 has to leave the office, and after one or two futile attempts, Mr. Love hesitatingly succeeds in dating Miss Honey, and asks her to marry him. Miss Honey accepts Mr. Love's proposal of marriage, but again Mr. 3 appears on the scene to thwart their hopes. He apparently convinces her that to marry him for money is a better choice than marrying Love for love. Miss Honey counters by persuading Mr. 3 to take her away to Brighton for a week's trial run. Mr. Love is appalled by Miss Honey's apparent perfidy. But she, clever schemer, leads Mr. 3 a terrible dance while they are away, at the same time convincing him that he must marry her or be sued for breach of promise. In the final scene, we find Mr. Love and Mr. 3 both attempting suicide at the opposite ends of the same piece of rope. Miss Honey checks them just in time, and horrifies them both by saying that she will marry the better businessman of the two, and the end is in sight, though not the one either of the men could foresee.
My boy Now be just a thought, the best of businessman. Now is he, he'll marry Miss Harley, and I shall be free.
No change of feeling, but just as I planned. Oh, everything but most of me man. You are the better man of the two. Will the horse leave us?
We'll get to work now, she'll marry you. Just a minute. Come here.
How terribly masterful you are.
And you, come here. Don't spoil it now, we've got so far. What happened in Brighton?
I'm trying to recall.
Oh, my dear child, nothing at all.
Nothing.
In that excerpt from the improbable opera Three's Company by Anthony Hopkins, I was singing with Elizabeth Boyd and Stephen Manton. Anthony Hopkins himself played the piano. Mozart is my favourite composer. The sublime Mozart's facility in all he touches is sometimes regarded as having less depth than the efforts of other composers of great earnestness and application, but his unerring instinct brings immense power to his writing when occasion demands. Recently, a new production of Don Giovanni has been mounted at the London Coliseum by the English National Opera, and for the first time I have played the Don's manservant, Leporello. Don Giovanni is by no means lacking in wit and humour, but these and many other emotions are combined with stark tragedy, beginning with a murder and ending with the Don's descent into hell, as divine retribution overtakes all his crimes and misdemeanours. Leporello is a fascinating character, the Don's sidekick and commentator on all his amorous adventures. He is by no means purely a comedian. He gloats over Elvira's predicament in the catalogue aria, where he rattles off lists of Don Giovanni's flirtations. On the other hand, he has some reservations about the Don's misdeeds. But still he sticks by him and is not above suspicion himself when it comes to aiding and abetting. His loyalty to the Don extends even to the moment when the statue of the Commendatore, who has been murdered by Don Giovanni, comes to exact retribution in the last act, though his pleas to both the Don and the statue fall on deaf ears. Here is some of Mozart's most powerful writing, the orchestra depicting the rising and falling flames of hell, the trembling of Leporello, the chorus joining in with the voices of the damned, and the final descent to Hades of Don Giovanni. One can only wonder at the impact this extraordinarily powerful and dramatic music must have made on Mozart's contemporaries.
Agrion son tutti morti. Donne dico, cuore in ciò, e fa salir l'ispiro, escono quei porti, e di poco più